Well, the San Antonio Spurs have been building this team for success, and their future is really stacked, in my opinion. With Victor Wembanyama, their free agency moves, and their spectacular draft class that they just drafted in 2024, I think the Spurs will be great in the coming years. What is good, YouTube? Welcome back to another video, and today let's talk about the San Antonio Spurs and why I believe they will be a dangerous team in the near future. Without further ado, please like, please subscribe. We're on the road to 500 subscribers, and without further ado, let's get on with the video. So yeah, you heard me. I believe that the San Antonio Spurs will be a really, really good team in the coming years. Will they be fantastic next year? Probably not. They're probably going to be maybe fighting for a play-in spot or probably rebuilding. We don't know. Like their team is so weirdly constructed in a way where like I can't really tell if they're going to be like a play-in team going into the playoffs or they're going to be just a low lottery team like last year, right? The Spurs, ever since dealing Kawhi, they've been rebuilding this roster. They had players like DeJounte Murray. They had Derek White. Like they've tried to rebuild this roster with Jakob Pertl, but like it just did not work. They finally in 2023, with the luck of the universe, got the number one pick in the draft lottery and got Victor Wembanyama. And we know Greg Popovich's history with developing centers with David Robinson, Timmy D, aka Tim Duncan, and now he has Victor Wembanyama, who is probably one of the most best prospects we've ever seen. You could probably argue LeBron or him, and he's probably the like we've never seen a player like him, and he's generational center, and everybody wanted him last year. But and then last year, Wembanyama went crazy last year. 21 points, uh, 10, uh, 10 rebounds, and about 4 assists as a center, which is really really good for a center like Wemby. And that's just his first year. I'm really excited to see what he will do next year for the Spurs. And the reason why I think their future is really good is not because of Wemby, even though. In my opinion, he should have won Defensive Player of the Year, except for Rudy, bro. Like I don't include instead of Rudy, I meant because I feel like I don't know Wemby hit the fact that he averaged like 2 or 3 blocks a game, which is nuts in my opinion. I think the only reason why Rudy got it is because their team was like top three in the West, so that was pretty impressive. But Wemby's team sucked, so we can't bring that like against him. I mean, his second best player was Jeremy Sohan. Let's just put that into perspective right there. So again, going back to the Spurs' future, I think the Spurs like their draft class they did. I'm gonna talk about the draft class first. Their draft class that they just like drafted this year was really good. They got Stephon Castle at number 4, solid pick, really good 3-and-D guy. Um, he's a point guard, but he's really really good at defense. Probably the best perimeter defender in the draft. And he has some really good playmaking skills. He needs to still improve his shooting. His shooting is not that great. Yeah, I think he shoots like 30% from three, which can still be improved with the Spurs development. But I'm just really happy that they finally got someone with Wemby that like can facilitate an offense and maybe do a pick and roll. And what I just didn't understand what the Spurs did was they got rid of like well, they drafted Rob Dillingham with the 8th overall pick, and I thought that oh my god, they got Stephon Castle and Rob Dillingham. That would have been crazy for Wemby. Like the Spurs could be competing in the next 2 years. No, they traded Rob Dillingham to the San Antonio Spurs for a 2030 first round pick and a 2031 first round pick. So they basically didn't even get a pick swap for that. Like I feel like that was the only mistake I feel like they did. But you never know. Maybe the Timberwolves are going to suck in 2031 and they might get the first overall pick. And that might be an instrumental pick. Maybe if the Spurs are competing, they can maybe go trade that pick. Like you never know. But I feel like if Rob Dillingham is really, really good, I just don't see why they traded it to the Timberwolves. If the Spurs are competing right now, I'm sorry, are trying to rebuild a team and build around Wemby, I didn't understand that trade. But that's the one thing I think the Spurs have not done is develop is draft like done well is like draft good point guards. But again, I think Stephon Castle was a really really good pick. But I'm a little confused why they didn't stick with the pick with Rob Dillingham. It just didn't make sense. But I think another thing they did really well is yesterday they signed Chris Paul to a 1-year deal, 11.1 million. Now, before y'all like blaming the comments for like saying this is a great move. I think you guys have to hear me out here. Chris Paul is not the same Chris Paul we've seen in Lob City. He's not the same Chris Paul from 2021 and from the Suns. Um, he's kind of washed, right? But I think this was a move to just solely help Wemby develop, right? Pick and rolls with Wemby would be really, really good with Chris Paul. I don't think Stephon Castle's there yet where he can like facilitate an offense right now. So maybe you can have Stephon Castle like play defense and like probably improve his 3-point shooting, get some spotters with Chris Paul running your offense. That could be really, really good for Wemby's development and the development of the San Antonio Spurs to maybe develop Stephon Castle's 3-point shot and also develop Wemby when it comes to the pick and roll lobs. Just playing offense in a really good NBA offense just help Wemby develop like that because I feel like that's really instrumental for the Spurs' success if Wembanyama develops into the star that everyone thinks he is. And I feel like he already has, but he still needs more years to prove himself and like just keep on growing and develop. So I think that Chris Paul move for 1 year, $11 million, solid deal. I think that's a really good deal for the Spurs. And look, they're not competing. Might as well just go and invest this year in Wembanyama. So yeah, I think the Spurs next season will be a lottery pick next year. But expect a lot of major improvements. I expect them to beat some good teams this season. Just sometimes beat some good teams in the regular season. I feel like they'll put up a lot of good fights, and they could probably beat any good team on any given day if the other team is struggling. But again, this whole year is just to see a development year for Wembanyama and Stephon Castle, all the rookies they drafted, just to see like their development and just get them acclimated to the league, right? That's the whole big point of a rebuild is to acclimate your stars and your rookies, right? So I think the Spurs are doing a really good job. They got future picks. They have a really good future, and who knows? The Spurs could be competing in the coming in 2 years. They could be. I don't see them competing next year because of how great the West is, but if they maybe have a really good free agency next year, because I think there's some really good people next year's free agency. They draft really well in the 2025 draft class, which is arguably probably going to be one of the best draft classes I've heard with like Cooper Flag. Like imagine they had Cooper Flag on this team, like that'd just be insane. But that's gonna wrap it up for the video. Please like, please subscribe. We're on the road to 500 subscribers. You guys let me know in the comments what you guys think about the Spurs. Free agency updates will be coming soon. Until next time, peace.